Mic check 1 2 3 4 5. Mic check 1 2 3 4 5. Hey, Paladin Lord, how are you, buddy? Welcome back. Can you hear me all right? Hear the music okay? Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Is this mic working? Do you read me? Testing 1 2 3. Perfect. Thank you. All right, I'll be right back. Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me all right, and everything's coming through good. Hello, Seisu. How are you doing, my friend? Ark Morindir, thank you so much for the follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the Damn Fam. How's everyone doing so far today? How's your weekend going this? This feels a little washed out at the moment. Give me just 1 second. Anyway, alrighty. So, you're doing great. Good to hear it. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Damn Stream. My name is Mac. I am the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is an AI-powered map-making utility available on Steam. We host these streams as a way for our community to get to know each other, but also as a way to provide live support. Think of them as like an AMA format. You can ask questions throughout the stream related to Dungeon Alchemist, and I will do my best to address them, whether it's, live support needed with a map you're building right now, you have questions or kind of interested in maybe purchasing Dungeon Alchemist or just curious, or maybe you have feedback for the devs and would like to share your insights with your experience with us. Regardless of what the situation may be, I welcome you all, and I hope you enjoy the stream. Let's see here. Hey, we got some people from YouTube as well. We've got Erop and Robert. Welcome. Good to have some representation across the various platforms. Always great. Welcome YouTube, welcome Facebook, Steam, Twitch, Twitter, Trovo, Kick. Welcome one and all. I hope you're enjoying the stream so far. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask and I will do my best to address them. Hey, stay safe, Swifty Goth. Sounds cool. Enjoy yourself. Safe travels. Let's see here. So I found this map on the workshop today, just before going live, and I just thought it was kind of neat how it's just this really immersive little hideout. But it's just a tiny little map. I really love when a little map packs a punch like that. I will have a wonderful stream. Thank you so much for the well wishes. Safe travels, my friend. Okay, let's see here. So how's everyone's weekend going so far? Anything interesting? It looks like Swifty Goth's doing some traveling, going to an amusement park. Any of you have any game sessions planned this weekend? Are you meeting up with your players in person or online? Maybe you are going to a movie or a play, or you're just planning to veg out and have a staycation at home. Maybe you're doing some session prep. Let's talk about it. I really like this back here. This looks so, it's like immersive. Interesting. Like, you can't tell me that doesn't look really cool. It's very neat looking. Ooh, how's that treating you? I saw you uploaded like a map with a staircase in it. Like a rounded staircase or something. With like a floor above it. I don't know. I was kind of glancing at the workshop earlier and saw that. I don't know if you actually shared the asset for it or not, or just the map. I liked, yeah, this right here. Cool. So have you shared those on the, You know, I'm just, I've been dealing with some, like, upper back pain. I have a pinched nerve just right at the base of my neck at the top of my spine, and it's really been messing with my sleep lately. This morning, I had Mrs. Mac, like, walk on my back because it'll pop it usually and helps, like, settle it into place. And she did, and it was like it was like, you know, I was breaking spaghetti or something. So I basically I'm feeling a lot better, but I didn't get much sleep last night because I was like just like dealing with it. Anyway, I appreciate you Oh, dang, Remy, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you're okay. Like, mine sounds like nothing in comparison. I was working in my yard and I, like, pulled something in my upper neck, and I don't know exactly what I did. Bachelor Chow. It's too bad you can't really see the curve from the preview image there. Swedish Cook, you gotta rotate it 45 degrees and take another preview or an export. Hard to tell that it's actually a rounded stair from that. These are really cool. That's pretty clever, actually. What? That's normal for you to pass out and fall face first? I'm sorry to hear that. That looks really good. Heck, this is even better than what I've got going on for my my little abstract. One thing though is you may want to try decimating it, because 25 megabytes is pretty large for a for an asset from the workshop. I know that Gallus RT Asmodeus can walk you through that if you're interested. He can like give you some information on that, but decimating it makes it much smaller. Like imagine getting it down to 2.5 megabytes or something like that, but really similar quality. Remy, that's scary. You know, Mrs. Mac used to get dizzy spells like that, and it ended up she had lupus. And lupus was like affecting all different aspects of her body and like attacking her. Essentially, her immune system was attacking her. And it would cause her to, you know, faint or pass out or get like. Anyway, so yeah, it's definitely something you may want to get looked at if you can. Yeah, the textures you're using can cause the size to be exponentially higher, like in size. I think it was Asmodeus was saying like smaller textures like 512 by 512 are fine, or even smaller than that. Like most of the time people are doing like 4K textures and you really only need like 1024 or less. Something like that. I remember watching the videos and he was saying something about that. But this looks really cool. I like it. I like what you're doing with this. This one's also much smaller, and I like that there's the support beams under. That makes a lot more sense from a standpoint of a, you know, a building. Need a stone stairway. Like that. Be cool. But yeah, it looks like you're doing really good so far, my friend. Appreciate it. Like you're putting all the effort into making these. and sharing them with the community. I think it makes it seem much more realistic having a beam under it instead of just a flat panel. You know what I mean? So if you look at this map, when you glance at it, what kind of setting or scenario do you think you could set up for your players in this map? It says it's an elevated hideout. I mean, you kind of have that as a prompt, at least. Robber's hideout, it kind of looks like that. Look at all the loot. A lot of loot. Almost looks like maybe even a pirate hideout. You know, after a long, whatever, raid or whatever, they bring... This could even be in like a cove or something. Because it seems like on this side is a cave entrance, right? So... The Dread Pirate Roberts is actually a dragon that's just shapeshifted. Ooh, Dyson, I like that. Smart. Smart. If you placate the dragon with gold, it won't come to your village looking for it. Dragoning 101. Join me for other useful dragon tips. Like, they have a mortar, but it only faces one direction. Uh-oh. The ball got stuck. This could be like a private kind of cove that it recedes into, you know? But yeah, it's still accessible, for sure. That's a lot of loot to kind of keep stuck in a like an easily accessible place. It is a beautiful map. I like what they did with the place. I really like these little details around the edge here. The impromptu fortifications. There's like rubble and just like random palisades and wood. I'm thinking because they use a rowboat to get in here, it might be secluded, like a cavern or there might be a thin entrance to get into. So a big boat probably isn't viable. It's very secret. And then you look over here, there's also an entrance, like a cave entrance on this side. So from my like reasoning, it seems like this whole area is enclosed within the cove. All the treasures are mimics, even the coins. I played in a campaign once where it kind of had some of the Kobold Press stuff, and so it had like expanded spell lists and expanded options for like your familiars and stuff. And one of the familiar options was a coin mimic called Goldbug, and it wasn't a mimic in the true sense. It mimicked a coin, looked like a coin. But instead of like biting you or attacking you, it was your familiar pet, and it looked like a coin when it held still. Rigel, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Dam fam. So basically, it had blind sight, which I found was really cool, because it could like sneak around and be like a little scout that you could send into places. It could like slide under a door or get in through a tiny little crack because it was a bug. And then if it ever got noticed, it just holds still and looked like a coin. And that actually worked to our advantage sometimes because we'd put it in with other coins that we were like paying someone and have it scout out the environment. And then I'd just dismiss it and resummon it back to me. So I'd see through its eyes in blind sight, scout out the environment. And one of its abilities was it could sniff out gold and find it within 30 feet. So essentially it knew where any gold was, and it was great for like locating treasures in dungeons or locating secret stashes and or, you know, getting your robbery on. Mimic kindergarten. But the gold bug was one of my favorite things I have ever run into in a game. If you message me on Discord, I'll send you the stat block for it if you want. But basically, it just looks like a little coin with a face, right? So it looks like that, and then when it would like come alive and its legs would come out and it'd walk. Had no flying, but it could climb and it could, you know, walk. So, and it had like 10 feet of movement speed. Not a lot because it was a little bug. But I mean, it was tiny. Most things would never see it. And it could sneak in and out of places and spy for me. It was great. And I would use it to like pay somewhere, and then I'd know where they store all their money in a safe or whatever, and I know exactly how much was there. And then I'd just dismiss him and he was gone. And then come back. You know what I mean? How you can like put it away in the pocket dimension and then pull it back out. Worked really well. A burglar bug. Yeah, basically. It was called Gold Bug. I mean, you could probably just Google Kobold Press Gold Bug and you probably will find some information about it. It was pretty neat, though. I thought it was a fun little, I don't know, like, I like the familiars in D&D, but yeah, I like them to be more niche. Like, it seems like, you know, that was so niche, it wasn't, like, game-breaking. It really only cared about gold. Is it? Oh, cool. Yeah, a lot of the Kobold Press stuff ends up on those, like, wikis and fan, you know what I mean? So I don't even think it had an attack. I mean, you could use, like, the familiar spells and, like, do spells through it like any other familiar, you know? Like, whatever. But I honestly, like, I just thought it was the most neat familiar. I'd always have a coin, and I'd flip the coin, and that was Gold Bug. And then, like, anytime I needed it to go spy on something, I'd just, like, throw it up on the wall, and it would start climbing and go into somewhere. This tiny little coin. I think one time I covered him in something to make him look dark. So it was like pitch or something, and then he crawled around like it was painted or something, and then he was super hard to see. It was great. Love it. Gold Bug for the win. Okay, let's pull up another map here really quick. Shall we? Have any of you seen any interesting maps this last week that you'd like to see on the stream? You know what? I want to take a closer look at this really quick. This tower platform thing. I want to see what you've done. Let's see what you've done. Just a little big. Like, this is the perfect size, but this is too tall. So ideally, you'd want something like that, right? And then if you sink this into the ground, it's no longer... So if you sink this into the ground, it's no longer part of what's underneath it. It's like, you know, under it. So you couldn't move it as a solid piece. I mean, this works great like that. I think it's great as you sink it. Looks good. But what I'm thinking is more of a kind of an open concept. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm already thinking 2 steps ahead here. I've been working on a map on Map Maker Monday, right? And this is 3 floors that I've got here that I'm starting to put together. Uh-oh. Where'd the second floor go? No! Oh well, I'll figure it out later. Which is crazy because they're like 10 feet ceilings. You know what I mean? It's pretty tall, technically. I mean, it's like a, yeah, I mean, most ceilings in homes, depending if they're vaulted, range anywhere from like 10 to 12 feet or higher if they're vaulted. There's a reason for that display name. So when you export in DA, what does it do? It goes into a top down, right? Like this. And when it does that, the chandeliers and everything, they have kind of a traversed kind of export where there's kind of somewhat layers where it's above everything. And it looks better perspective wise when it's raised way up and bigger. That's just kind of what they experimented with. Obviously, you can disable collisions, resize them, move them up and down if you choose. So if you disable collisions, you can grab any object and move it up and down if you want. Well, any object that would allow it. Not all objects can be moved up and down. I'd say like 99%. Hi, I'm new in the community. Previous code map is available in the workshop. Yeah, let me get the link for you really quickly. Stand by. You know what? I have the name of it right here. Elevated Hideout. Let me get that link. And there you go. Welcome, Rigel, by the way. What I really like about this, though, is it's an open space, which means it's a realistic, like a realistic opening that did you actually set the colliders up with this as a gap so something can pass through it? Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, see, that's what makes it amazing, is the fact that you can just go through it like that. You know what I mean? The abstract object solution I shared, you can't do that. That's an impossible, choice there. This is fantastic, though. Really ties the whole room together, being able to go up like this. I like it. It's great. Rigel, did you get that link? I mean, do you play in first person mode there, display name, or do you play in top down? You got to think about that for a moment. And then also putting into perspective, yeah, once in a while you can shoot some shots in first person, use them for immersion and shoot some video and stuff, and then adjust accordingly for those shots. But I mean, if you're constantly, say, streaming a first person view, then yeah, that's something to consider for sure. I really like the cross timbers here, but kind of want to rotate it that way. I want to see what it looks like. I have to redo the whole house because this just looks so clean. Anyway, I'm not going to save this like this, but that's kind of what I was thinking ahead of, is it's just going to be a perfect fit for that. Oh, really? Display name? That's interesting. So you do it mostly just for, like, to relax, for artistic purposes? Sweet. You know, I actually make tons of maps to just, like, unwind, maps that never see the light of day, so I totally vibe with that. I get it. Like, a lot of maps I'll make with purpose, but there are maps that, like, I have no intention of ever sharing them. A lot of maps I'll file away as, like, what they are, like a category. Oh, this is a forest potential encounter here, but that's it, you know? I'll, like, save it and have it on the ready if I need it later. Anyway, this is very cool. I like that. Thank you for sharing that, Swedish Cook. Very clean asset. Hope you do some more varieties of that. Will turn out nice. Nice. Yeah, I played The Sims a ton when it first came out. Oh my gosh, y'all need to see this map. We were looking at it the other day on stream. It's pretty cool. It's a tiny map, but it is like a, you know, those, like, I don't even know what they call them. Gosh, what is it called? A diorama? Like, where you are, like, looking at, like, a kind of a, like, a little tiny space inside of, like, a box, you know? So it looks like someone made an alley diorama that's like a bookshelf diorama that could go in between two sets of books. Because it's so small, but it's so cool. Oh, is there a Doctor Who episode for this alley? I'm not aware of it. Sorry, I've only watched a bit of Doctor Who. This is not the reveal stream, Frank the Tank. I don't know where you got that information from. The reveal streams are the 1st and the 8th. We were very public about when those will be. The events in our Discord clearly state the 1st and the 8th for the reveal streams. Today is a normal, everyday stream. So sorry for the confusion there, but you might have gotten the dates mixed up. So we host a stream every Saturday. Every other Saturday is the Damn stream. Every opposite Saturday is the Damn Challenge stream. So those normally are every Saturday, rain or shine. Now, those two streams are going to be taking a break, the 1st and the 8th, for the reveal streams, which, again, in the events on Discord, in the announcements, all the social announcements, was pretty direct on that. I apologize if there was some miscommunication there. But yeah, the reveal streams will fall on Saturdays, but they will be the 1st and the 8th. I mean, display name, there's probably 24 websites that host 3D files of all sorts. You could start by just Googling, what you're looking for, 3D file or 3D model, and see what's out there and where you can, locate it. But not every site is going to have free stuff or Creative Commons stuff. A lot of places will sell models. So like individual artists will put their models up for sale that you can purchase and then use, in certain ways within the license. Now, others will share them for free. There is lots of websites that do it, though. There's too many to even start naming off. But I would recommend just start searching for Creative Commons 3D models and see what you can find there. But ultimately, if you can find a model and you don't mind if it does have the appropriate, Creative Commons accreditation options, then you could potentially share that model on the workshop or even just use it for your personal use. Remember, you don't have to share assets to the workshop. When you're using the asset importer, there's two separations, local and published. When you have an asset, before you publish it on the workshop, this last tab is for publishing it. Otherwise, it just stays as a local asset until you actually publish it. So it can be used in your copy of DA only. Now, once you publish it, you have the option to keep it private, friends only, and public. So you could still publish it to the workshop and just keep it private. So there's a cloud backup of the file somewhere, but it's private to only you. Hey, see you later, Swedish Cook. So this is from a... I am very excited for the streams in June. I wish we could be doing them right now, but the Magic build isn't ready yet for streams. It's just not there yet, unfortunately. They are, the migration's gone very well. I'm pretty sure it's pretty much all done, and now they're starting bug testing again next week. So we can get back into it and hopefully find, any and all issues. Magic is going to be crazy, some of the stuff that's, going to be part of it. Like, just yesterday in Discord, someone was asking, hey, with the ability to raise structures up and down, can we put a building underwater? And I hadn't even checked yet to see if it was possible. So I just went and tested it, and yeah, it's totally capable to drag and generate a structure in the water, so you can have, like, submerged abandoned ruins or whatever. And I was like, that is so cool. The fact that you can do that is actually a huge quality of life improvement. And it's like a little thing you don't even think of checking right off the bat, because you're slowly connecting all the dots of what you can do with this new feature. I mean, imagine, like, it's kind of be like the weird... Okay, I'm trying to think of, like, an analog here. Like, imagine you're, like... You have a piece of equipment and you upgrade it and it makes it, like, that much better. Like, maybe an exosuit for your body where you can, like, move tons of weight and jump really high and lift things. And that's kind of how it feels like in this case, is like you are getting a huge upgrade in what Dungeon Alchemist can do with just the AI rooms, even just that. Like, if that was all that was in the update, I feel like it would still be a very solid, huge update. But then you're having, 600 plus assets, tons of new features, tons of improvements to the Steam Workshop, which I know the community has been wanting, and oh man, and by that I mean quality of life improvements and bug fixes. Carl has been coordinating with myself and a few of our heavy asset contributors, Asmodeus, etc., that to test and help determine why the workshop assets slow down DA when you have too many of them. So right now, I think of assets on the workshop like mods. Hey Scruffy, thank you for the follow. Boilers and toilets, toilets and boilers. Plus that one boiling toilet. I don't know if you got that. I'm assuming your name is Scruffy because of, Futurama, but if not, no big deal. Either way, welcome. So, with the workshop, we've been testing to see why DA runs slowly when you have tons of assets that you have either imported to the workshop or you've downloaded from the workshop. And those assets preload with DA went into your RAM, and if you don't have enough RAM to load them all, DA doesn't load. So our devs came up with a fix for that, both for people uploading tons of assets to speed up the process of the upload, and for people downloading tons of assets to speed up the overall load of DA, and so they're not as big of a burden. But to this point, I was saying a minute ago, please treat assets from the workshop like a mod on a game. So when you play a game and you add mods to it, what happens the more mods you add? Eventually, it kind of becomes a point of diminishing returns. It doesn't run that great with tons of mods on it. Mods are fun, they add a lot of functionality, but they also can break a game or cause it to run poorly. So you got to think the same way with 3D models on the workshop currently until the update is released. Oh, really? Well, still, you're awesome regardless, Scruffy. Puppy, there's a purple. Honestly, yeah, from my understanding, the update is gonna unleash a lot of capability in the future. How's my goo boy?
How's this goofy boy?
Now, display name, let's say you were playing a game and you loved all these mods for it. Would you run 150 mods for a game all at once? That's a risky play, right? It may not even load. So think with that mentality. You get what I'm saying? I know we'd all love to have every asset from the workshop. It's like, especially because they're free. They are mods. You are modding Dungeon Alchemist directly with those 3D models. They're not stock. So yes, it is in fact a modification. So, and they're not optimized like ours are. So I'm to that point, I was testing this update like a couple weeks ago. I downloaded 1,200 assets from the workshop, meaning I was subbed to that many. That's like 1/3 of the assets on the workshop. My DA was loading in 40 seconds or less from a desktop icon to the map, and the map was 80 by 80. It was massive. So some of the 3D models on the workshop are in excess of 250 megabytes. When you think about it, the average asset or the average map from DA is like 5 to 10 megabytes for the entire map. That's just if you have stock assets, no JPEGs or anything like that in it. So putting that into perspective, when you start adding third-party assets and one of them is 20 times or 10, 20 times the size of your map stock, it starts making a difference in performance. Right? I mean, I have like some older laptops that could try running DA. It would be kind of cool to have like either a stream, like a Steam Deck or a minimum computer spec machine. But I have several computers, Remy. It's not like I just run it on my most powerful one. I try it on a few. My son has a computer. My wife has a computer. I have a stream computer and a DA computer. Plus, we have a laptop. It totally is something you could use for your campaign, Dragor. My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. And this is the official channel for Dungeon Alchemist here on Twitch. Dungeon Alchemist is a map-making tool available on Steam that allows you to build immersive environments, in just a few clicks using our assisted generation, or you can roll up your sleeves and build very intricate, detailed maps like the one you see here. Oh, okay, cool. Sorry. But yeah, this is an amazing map. It's like a little alley, and it's cool because it feels like a diorama. Like, absolutely feels like one of those dioramas that, like, would be in between two bookshelves, or two books on a bookshelf. But yeah, I mean, I love this. This looks just fantastic. Yeah, this map is totally on the workshop. Let me grab it really quick. Hangman's Alley. Let me look it up. Weird. Oh, there it is. Here we go. I always like, ever since I saw I don't know, when I was growing up, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a pretty popular film as it had just come out, you know, and it was like a groundbreaking kind of filmography at the time. And I loved the movie. I always thought it was very interesting. And it was very cool because you had like a crosshatch of characters from two different companies, Disney and like, you know what I mean? Like it was Disney with like all the, like it wasn't it like all the Looney Tunes stuff all in one movie. Anyway, Warner Brothers, right? So Warner Brothers and Disney in one. So basically, what I was getting at is like in that movie, there's a scene where they go to like a club, like a speakeasy or whatever, and it has like one of these little hatches, like the slat ones where you go, "Whoa," and he's like, and it's like a big gorilla guarding the door because he's like, you know, there's animated characters mixed in with real world characters, like a live action, whatever, live action characters mixed in with animated characters, and the gorilla is the guard, and he asks for the password, and he's just got an attitude about it. But I always wanted to like go to a speakeasy to have like a slatted door opened. Honestly, imagine what it took to get that movie to happen. Like the logistics of like just the amount of paperwork involved for a crossover for just a few seconds. Like, oh, that's so cool. Well, does it got a cool themed name? The Tiny Minotaur? That's cool. That is cool. There used to be a pub, like a pub style here that was like a old style pub, but it was like here in Vegas, and it was really cool. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I feel like it was called the Griffin's Head or something like that, or the Green Griffin or something like that. And you just go inside, and it felt like you were in like an old school pub from like a fantasy setting. They did a really good job of nailing that aesthetic. The problem was it was like right off of Fremont Street, so it was just constantly packed, and most people were just there for a drink, not there for the aesthetic, and so it kind of ruined the mood sometimes when you were there hanging out. Oh, that's really cool. So you trade currency for coin at the door, and then like a token. That's very cool. I feel like I at a Rem fair I did stuff like that and they had coins, you know, and you could trade for stuff too. But that's like taking it to the next level. I don't think you're gambling so much as you just pay for the food with the tokens that you buy at the door, you know? Now the real question, the begs the question, if you walk out of there with those coins, can you come back later and buy the food? I'm kind of curious though. How do they prevent them from being like minted and someone taking advantage of it? Because if you could take those coins home, I mean, I don't know. I guess the metal's probably more valuable than it's worth your time and effort to do. Ah, large pewter coins. Gotcha. Interesting. That's still very cool. I like that concept. It sounds fun. This is so beautiful and immersive. I feel like I could just stare down this alley for like an hour. This would be such a good, like, I don't know, like you could record this and do it on a loop as like a landing page or like a scene or like a theater of the mind shot. Right? A good screensaver? Yes, exactly. It also just kind of reminds me of a scene from like Thief, the game. Did anyone ever play Thief? Yes. Yes, display name. Every update comes with new windows and doors added into the assortment of objects. So new themed doors, windows. In fact, a lot of features are going to be added related to doors and windows. So in the new update, you'll have round buildings, right? And we've added a dynamic update to our doors and windows that they make a dynamic bend around the bend of the building, right? So essentially, depending on that curvature, whether it's completely round or ovoid, it'll put a door that bends to fit it. Scruffy, for right now, that is somewhere down the line on the to-do list. One thing I like to point out is, and despite how full-featured Dungeon Alchemist feels, we're still very much in early access. So a lot of things that are like, why isn't there like freestanding doors? Probably because we're in early access. Now, if you get on the workshop, there is actually quite a few doors available that you can download, and they'll work as freestanding. I've actually shared a couple myself. Show you here. So like this here. An object can be placed pretty much anywhere. As long as you have collisions off. And I actually set the rotation point of this object on the hinge, so it rotates around the hinge. Well, I'm just letting you know, you have some options available in the interim. And there's also nothing stopping you from sourcing doors, say, online or making your own, and then importing them using the asset importer or an abstract template. So these tools are available to anyone who wants to import assets into Dungeon Alchemist. You have support for STL files, FBX files, and GLB/GLTF files. So you can do like flat color, like a gray tone, assets, like the little token kind of assets, or you can do color, full color assets or animated assets. Now, I know that is a little bit more work than some people want to do, but if you want a very custom feel or a very specific feel, sometimes, waiting will take much longer than making it yourself or sourcing one. And who's to say we may end up making a door that is exactly what you want? Ultimately, I would love to have freestanding doors and walls. Right now, the doors and walls, freestanding doors and windows, ultimately, they are integrally tied to the AI walls and can't be separated. I'm hoping that in the future that won't be the case. Maybe after Fun with Objects, we'll have freestanding or, stuff like that at any level. Alrighty. Let's find us a new map. Cat. looking at my own maps. I'm like, why am I not seeing anything that is somebody else's? It's because it's all my maps. This looks cool. Let's check it out. I'm assuming this is supposed to be a cave. And one thing I noticed right off the bat, very simple rookie mistake here. If you're using a virtual tabletop and you're making a cave, you may not want light from the outside seeping in, right? So if you go into the terrain tools here and you go to raise cave area, this tool here, and just take it around the edge like this. You could still have a slant inside, but what I am doing is sealing off the light source exterior. Oof. I undid a lot. Now, I don't really like to critique people's maps in this way, you know, because I don't want people to feel like they did a bad job or anything. I just more like pointing out that this is a functionality within DA. A lot of people don't know that you can actually have completely sealed off caves. That is weird. Where is that peeking at? Like there's a light source. Not sure where. Why is that getting over the wall? Is it maybe here? Nope. Ah, I know why. Last thing. Now you also need a cave ceiling. Notice how the shade is disappearing. Essentially, I guess you could just do this part too, but this will not give you cave walls. You essentially kind of go through the whole map and just kind of draw over it with this ceiling. I wish it kind of marked an area as red or showed you where you've been at least, but now there's no light seeping into this map from the outside, making it like a true cave map. Some of the assets got all jolted up here. We can fix that though. Whoop. Whoop. Well, when you do the cave biome by default, it definitely does this. The only place light can get in is an opening like this on the cave. So, like, watch this light source here as I rotate it. See that here? It's like it's peeping through a keyhole, you know? You can see the light kind of fanning around the room. So that would be the realistic way to have light enter a cave, right? Now, with the cave drawing tools, particularly the cave biome itself, this is exclusive to the cave biome. You're really not going to find this anywhere else right now. I hope that they add this ability, like where you can block off light to the, you know, the inner of a cave, like they do here with homes, with walls. So the wall would have, you know, a blocked off space, but whatever. So when you look at caves, the way they're generated, this raised area where it's dark around the edges, that's a line of sight wall. Yep. So like if you look at the terrain here, when you raise the cave area, watch what happens. It puts like a dark, that's also a line of sight. So this little pillar here would act as a line of sight in that cave and could be cover, technically. So you want to keep that in mind when you're molding the terrain in an environment with your terrain tools. If you just use the stock terrain tools in a cave, it has more functionality. You can lower, raise, smooth. But watch what happens around the edges here as I do this. It gets light, right? So now the line of sight actually goes up to this ridge instead of where it was before. Now, if you accidentally trace through too much like that, then a line of sight can go through the next room. And it's very easy to have that happen accidentally. You know what I mean? Just like a little blip like that. I played in a game where the DM accidentally left line of sights like this over the cave walls, and we had to stop, and he had to redo the whole map. Because it was like giving away way too much information. This really is only relevant if you're playing on like a virtual tabletop, like Foundry, Roll20. In a game system that our maps generate a wall, like a line of sight wall, it's very critical that you think of this in the long run. Anyway. Another thing when you're in the cave, I was showing you this tool a bit ago, says erase cave ceiling. So imagine this is like in the mountain, and there's a bit of the mountain that it's exposed, and there's like an opening to the sky where light can peek in. You know what I mean? Like an event or whatever, a hole, an opening. Maybe it collapsed and you fell into the cave from above, and you could still see the light above, but you can't get back out. I don't know. But in this case, notice how when I do that, the light kind of leaks into the area there. What it does is it puts a hole in the ceiling here and allows light through. So if you're in a token, what this does for you, just place one here. You can see the sky from this point. As you go further into the cave, when it's erased, no longer erased, it becomes dark again for first person to give that immersive, closed off cave ceiling where there's nothing but darkness above. Anywhere it's erased, you'll be able to see out. Anywhere it's not, dark. You can do this in to a degree in buildings too. Like the individual rooms of buildings, you can expose it to the sky and even let snow in like it has no roof. But not using the terrain tools. It's a totally different thing. All right. So right here, if you go to generate like a room, any room, I'm just going to build a house here, or like a living room here. When you build a structure, you can edit the structure through the edit room panel. And what that does, as long as you have the building selected like it is now, where it shows the UI and the outline for it, you could come in and essentially show the ceiling for this room, or show no ceiling. And what that does is there's not a true ceiling, it's the immersive ceiling like before. So when you're in cinematic mode, you'll see the black kind of cover. But when or if you do it this way, now it's exposed. Maybe a portion of this building is open to the sky, or maybe it's decrepit and falling apart, so the roof is caved in, or whatever number of reasons. You could have like an open area in the middle with like a little planter, or like a kind of a garden in the center. You know what I mean? That is exposed to the open air. Whatever. But that allows you to place a token and then see the sky above instead of the immersive blacked out ceiling. Again, to do that, you would go into the draw room tool, select the edit room tool, and then select the room you want to do this to, and then check it from that to the sun. Also, while you're in this mode, you can regenerate the room. Maybe you didn't like the layout it gave you. Change it a little bit, right? Or you can just delete all the objects and start fresh. Just use the room as a base. Lastly, you can also edit the room shape. Maybe you want to get rid of a section of it. Ta-da! So in the last few minutes, we've had likes from Gabriel Millard and Anita Bergmans. Thank you so much for those likes. And we had a follow about 7 minutes ago from Saint Dormatius. Thank you so much for the follow. Much appreciated. Welcome, welcome. If you have any questions about Dungeon Alchemist, please let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. I think after this, I need a nap. After the stream. And I have a package that's going to get here in like the next 10 minutes, 20 minutes, so when that arrives, I will have to step away and just go check on it. Whoa. Basically, it's crazy. Like, I live in a gated neighborhood, right? You would think, like, you know, a little bit nicer neighborhood, it would be like, whatever, less likely to have your stuff stolen. But no, that is not the case. In fact, I feel like people feel like more, like, emboldened to do so. The way this looks, it definitely reminds me of Moria. Like, the scale. You know what I mean? So, and also, they're less likely to have confrontation. There's less eyes about. People are working or away. You know what I mean? So they'll probably go take the package, leave. Better packages there, right? And less confrontation. The person there will likely just report it stolen, get their stuff back. But in my case, a lot of times I need stuff quickly for projects or whatever, and so if I have to wait, it's a problem. And I've had some expensive stuff stolen off my porch because Amazon is just like too lazy to put it where I want them to or like properly cover it. I don't know, it just drives me crazy. Like, I've had a monitor stolen off my porch. I've had a graphics card stolen off my porch. I've had cutting boards stolen off my porch. I've had all sorts of stuff go missing. Like, silly stuff. I've also had my packages delivered to the wrong address numerous times, even though my address is, like, very, very straightforward and simple. And, like, clearly labeled. I don't know. Doesn't this give off Moria vibes a little bit? Okay, so Deathlock, roof, and open sky, how or does it carry over to the maps? So, as I stated when I was explaining it, those are immersive settings only. That has nothing to do with your exports aside from the light that you see visible in that room. So, the room itself, it does nothing except for when you're in first person. When you look up, the sky will be gray like this instead of having light or a sun or the stars. So when you're in a building, it grays it out and makes it more immersive, like there is actually nothing there. No weather, okay? No external stuff. Now when you're in a cave, which I'm kind of wondering how this is made. Let's look at this. This is dark parchment, not a cave, so it won't work. So as I was saying, in a cave, you can let light into the cave at points, so it seems like maybe there's a hole or like a vent or something shedding light into that position. As of right now, there really is no true ceilings or roofing in Dungeon Alchemist that is auto-generated. All of it is something that's done by hand. You'll have to place it by hand and either source out roofing or, you know, something along those lines. We do offer 2 roofs. Dungeon Alchemist is meant to be exported in top-down so you could see into buildings. We assume that if you're playing on like a virtual tabletop and you have lots of buildings that people can enter, that the line of sight in the virtual tabletop will block them from seeing in there, just like a roof would, providing the level of immersion and letting them know that it's a place they can enter. Typically in a game, like that with visual feedback, you want to hang a torch letting people know it's someplace they can enter or not by dictating, this has a roof, can't enter it, has an opening, you can go inside. Anyway, that's a matter of personal preference in my game, but let's see here. Let's go back to the cave and show you one more time here. I really like this map, though. It's weird. I mean, you're doing it probably the best way to do it at the moment. Deathlock. Oh, excuse me. I might sneeze. Ooh. Excuse me. So, when you're in a cave like this, it's all walled off from the light in the exterior lighting. The only way a light can get in is in cave openings like this, right? So think of this top point where it's dark as that's mountain wall. That's cave ceiling. Really, it's just a cutaway, isn't that what it's called? A cutaway, or like when they peel back like a vehicle, cut it in half so you could see all the internal mechanisms or a piece of electronics. Is that what that's called? So think of this like a cutaway, if that is what it's called. I can't remember, but I feel like there's a technical term for it. But essentially here you can see inside. Light can get inside because this is like the cave entrance, right? So imagine here, I rotate this. You see that light source right there, right in the cave mouth opening? It's kind of extending into it and moving around right in here. See there, the light from the cave getting in, or from the exterior light source. Everywhere else, though, it won't breach into this cave because it's sealed off from the natural world. Like from that light source, right? This is technically just a cutaway, a slice of this entire cave system at this level. Now, let's say you wanted there to be like a vent or a light source somewhere in the back, or maybe an alternate entrance that they could get into, like a secret access point. You go to the Erase Cave Ceiling tool under Terrain and the Draw Caves tool. Notice that light's peeking through there. All that does is allow light through there, so it gives off kind of the feedback visually that there's light here from an external source. And if you happen to be in first person, say streaming this to your players, when you enter this space, it'll go from this cave ceiling to an exposed sky, giving you the immersive feeling that there is an exit here, or there's a way out. Does that make sense? So that's realistically all it does right now, is it helps better immerse the first-person shots and leaks light in from top down. Now, alternatively, like I showed you with the buildings, that can let snow into a building, for instance, or the external light sources to be visible, or like the weather. So in first person, you could see the night sky. Now, if you're in ruins, that makes a lot of sense, don't you think? Like to be able to see externally. Let's just do a Badlands map here. Anyway, Deathlock, I'm sorry that's not quite the solution you were looking for, I bet. But it is cool nonetheless, and I think it is a baby step in the right direction, as Remy said earlier. So let's say you have some abandoned ruins, right, in the middle of nowhere out here in the desert, right? I mean, usually if ruins are like falling down, the walls are crumbling, usually the ceiling's one of the first things to go, right? The walls are the last thing to go, typically. Ceilings more often than not wood or perishable material, whereas the stone will last lifetimes. So, if you want your players to be able to see immersively outside of this temple while they're inside of it, just show open sky in cinematic mode, and that will also carry over to first person mode. So when they're inside of this, they can see the exterior. This is great, especially with the night. I really love the night skybox. I think it's much better. Makes it feel just so much more barren, you know? Heck, this could be a good little camp scene, a long rest scene for your players or something, or an investigation area. Maybe they're looking for a hatch in these ruins to get down to somewhere else. But anyway, otherwise, you wouldn't see this sky if that was gone, or if that wasn't there. So if I click on this room and change it back, watch what happens. Even though the light is peeking through, it's counterintuitive. You could see the night sky light peeking through. It's blocked out. It's all gray. Okay. Yeah, that package just arrived, everyone, so I'm going to go ahead and deal with that, okay? I'm going to drop an ad on the stream feed. It might loop a couple of times, so I'm sorry about that. It's going to take me a minute to go get my shoes on, go grab the package, move it into the garage, close the garage, come back upstairs. I'm going to be like 3 to 5 minutes tops, okay? I will be back in just a moment.
Dungeon Alchemist is an AI-powered map-making application that allows you to make amazing maps in just a few clicks. You can then easily print these maps and use them in your role-playing games. Or you can import them into your favorite VTT with walls and lights configured for you. Here's how it works. First, choose a terrain for your map. Then pick a theme. How about an old-school crypt? Or maybe an abandoned mansion? Just start drawing rooms, and Dungeon Alchemist will place all the walls, floors, doors, objects, and lights for you. Each new room is generated on the fly and is completely unique. Yeah, we do all the grunt work for you, so you can focus on creating. Changed your mind? No problem. Swap out the theme of an entire room with a single click. Is it a garden? Nope, it's a hovel. And now it's a tent. Everything in Dungeon Alchemist can be adjusted. Release your interior decorator and go wild. Recolor potions. Mess with the light. Set the house ablaze. In Dungeon Alchemist, you are the artist. Bring in your own content and really personalize your world. Dungeon Alchemist comes with thousands of unique assets, each lovingly crafted to suit your adventuring needs. Create a glowing mushroom forest. Light up your abandoned temple, or stuff your room to the brim with pillows. Build an entire world in seconds and reshape reality to your heart's content. Once you're happy, bring your world to life and explore your map through your player's eyes. Come along with us and let Dungeon Alchemist upgrade your role-playing experience to the next level. Dungeon Alchemist cannot be held responsible for any bodily harm, injury, loss of limb or loved ones, poisoning, curses, level drain, elongated limbs or toenails, death or undeath your players may experience from their character's use of this product.
You stand before the...
Dungeon Alchemist is an AI. Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Al- Dungeon Alchemist is an AI.
You stand before the long dark road to the fabled realm of Doyak Ta and the... You stand before the long dark road. You stand before the long dark road to the fabled...
Oh, my mic is muted. Yep. I forgot to unmute when I came back. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Good. Just kidding. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Yar. Dyson, did I tell you about my dream to someday make a pirate artificer? An artificer pirate mix? A yardificer. Oh, that's a damn challenge map. Cannot look at it. Let's take a look at this one. Yartificer. I've always wanted to know if you use the repeating shot infusion on a cannon, will it work? If there's a DM crazy enough to allow this to happen. And the thing is cannons, they range from hand size up to full scale. Big boys, right? There's that, like, the Tsar Bomba, which is, like, one of the biggest cannons ever made, right? It's, like, huge. It's massive. And then there is, like, tiny little cannons that can be mounted on a swivel. Which really makes you wonder. Sorry, I'm a bit of an artificer nut, so I really enjoy the class. Try to play it any chance I can, and always trying to figure out ways to break it. This is really cool. I like the idea of a fortress kind of nestled up in the hills, you know? Because most forts and stuff, they would use the terrain to their natural environment, or they'd build the fort where they needed it. You know, i.e., you know, a choke point in the environment, or the river, or, you know, lake, or whatever, to monitor trade or access to that region. So, something like this. My DM PC pet peeve is PCs with pets, and my artificers always seem to have I mean, that's like part of their class. That's like who they are. That's their identity, is having a little construct. Like, the Steel Defender is so intrinsically linked to the Battlesmith class. But you gotta consider, like, if they have that, their action economy is kind of diced. They're splitting their action economy across two things. It really isn't that much more HP or, like, damage they can do. In fact, they'll probably get much better damage using their own spells or cantrips. But I do, you know, you got the Homunculus, which essentially is the Artificer's, you know, familiar, right? And then, depending on the subclass of Artificer, you also have construct options. So there is, like, the Eldritch Cannon constructs, and then the Steel Defender construct, which I understand, you know, constructs can be a little OP if they're like a massive golem, but the Steel Defender and the the Eldritch Cannon constructs really aren't that broken overall. Realistically, what I like to do is when I think of like pets or things that are extra, they're just a little bit of extra action economy or something that can do a task on the side while the players are busy fighting or doing something else. So thematically, like I've played with a few people who have pets, you know, or construct pets or familiars, and I try not to let it bother me too much because I feel like it's part of their identity as a character, you know? Some people identify with Fireball, some people identify with their familiars and their pets. Especially rangers who like pets. But I could see it being a little bit of an annoyance as a DM having to deal with like this pet that does all these random little things that you don't account for. I just think of it as like a class ability, realistically. You know, some people can teleport as their class abilities, and some people, you know what I mean? It's like having a little pet is very trivial in the grand scheme of things when you start weighing it out against like some class abilities. But I could see how they get frustrating. So one rule I always have is if there is a pet, there's two types of pets, right? There's cosmetic pets that are their friend, just there for fun, merely flavor, right? And there are active pets, like active player pet, you know, like NPCs, right? That do actively participate in what's going on in combat or, you know, in the plans that are being laid out. If their construct, if their pet is part of the action, i.e. it attacks, or is part of their plan to succeed in some sort of gambit, i.e. the pet activates a switch while they are fighting, or the pet sneaks in and steals something, you know, and you watch through the familiar's eyes, or whatever way you do it. If the pet is engaging and using actions to attack and do other things like that, it's free game, meaning that it can be attacked. If not, then no. It is a cosmetic pet merely for fun. I will not attack their pet if it's cosmetic and flavor. Now, putting that into perspective though, like a construct, an eldritch cannon, a homunculi, all of those can be replaced very easily, and they give several, it's very simple. A steel defender takes a 1-hour ritual during a downtime. Short rest, long rest, back. They could literally make it a carbon copy of their last one and just say it has its entire personality automatically transferred to it. So, a direwolf, I mean, technically, like, the Steel Defender for the class with Artificer does scale up. Its HP goes up a little bit, it gets more powerful attacks, but not much. It only gets, like, a class feature once later on. And I think its max HP ends up being, like, somewhere around 40 or 50 tops. Like, it could be one hit. And it doesn't have death saves. So that's the other thing, too. Are you giving death saves to these animals? That could make your life miserable. I would just treat it like, you know, a summonable pet. If it's an animal that they trained or something and they're using it for combat, I would just make sure they know that it can be targeted. But if it's something they summon like a familiar and they're getting upset about it disappearing, that's a little bit too much attachment to something that's, you know, non-existent. That's like, you know, I named this pencil Bob, right? Bob is great. We love Bob. Don't you guys love Bob? Bob the pencil is so awesome. He's so cool and yellow. He's got a great eraser and... See, I just attached you to Bob and then destroyed him. That's kind of how I think of familiars in a game, like especially when they could be resummoned for nothing. I don't know. If it's a pet that they've given a personality, a name, and they're attached to it, I reconsider using it as a target. But at the same time, if they're putting it into actionable consequences, they need to know that that's a possibility. Not Bob. What did Bob do to you? You know what I just did to Bob, though? I gave him new life. He's now technically 2 pencils. But you get what I'm saying, Dyson. Realistically, and I think that's something that is a session 0 type conversation. And if it's kind of late for that now, you may have to double back and just say, hey, we needed to have a discussion about these pets. You know what I mean? If anything, it's just a conversation you got to have with your players and set some precedent that if it's cosmetic, I will not attack it, as long as it does cosmetic things. If it's cute and funny and adds to RP, but doesn't really change the dynamics and outcomes of combat or any, strategic importance, it's fine. I might even let it talk and do important things once in a while or interact with things just for fun and RP, but not really. It's mostly trivial. You know what I mean? If they want it to be part of combat, they want it to be part of the team and do things, and it's going to get targeted on occasion. It's gotta, that's how I do spells too. If they're using counterspell, they better expect counterspell back from the occasional mage. That means that spell's out there. You know what I mean? As soon as they start using those features excessively, or spells excessively, it's just as likely to come back at them. So, see, that's perfect. That is a great example of how the snakes stayed as flavor because they're really never impactful, right? You bring them up once in a while, you may even say, what are those 2 little snakes following you there? You could bring them up for RP purposes. Or even have someone who's afraid of snakes at once in a while, or something like that. But realistically, if they're not going to do any combat, they don't have a stat block, then I'm never going to attack them. Their pet can live forever. In one of the campaigns I was in, we found a tiny space hamster, not the full-size space hamsters, right? This space hamster I can't remember his name all of a sudden. It's just, I'm drawing a blank. But he had telepathy. And he had, like a little bite attack, right? And like maybe one other attack in his stat block. And our druid took it upon himself to adopt this space hamster and protect him. Oh, his name was Whiskers. Whiskers the space hamster. And Whiskers talk like this. Anyway, so basically, Whiskers had like 2 hit points, right? Very, very squishy. But he had some crazy good attacks where he would do, like, his bite one was nothing, but his other attack would, like, give advantage to the next player that attacked after him. He always had first in initiative for some reason. And the druid liked to give him, what is that spell that druids can, like, magic stone? So he would give him all of his magic stones so Whiskers could throw magic stones instead of his normal attack. So he had range, right? And once he started using Whiskers in combat to attack, the DM would target Whiskers. And Whiskers died and got hurt a lot. And we were using way too many resources to revive Whiskers, i.e. diamonds, to revivify this tiny 2 HP little thing. And I just said, you know what, man, enough is enough. Like, we don't have enough money and resources to revive Whiskers every combat, so you either need to keep him out of combat, or we need to keep him back at home base. He can't be fighting anymore. It's not worth it. And we said that out of combat and discussed it, and that's like, basically, we had this discussion as a team and just said, we love Whiskers. Whiskers is awesome. Let's keep him back at home base. Let's use him for interrogations. He can read people's minds and talk directly into their heads, so we would actually use him to speak to people who didn't speak our languages or wouldn't speak to us. It was great. He was a great little interrogation tool. He'd sit up on your shoulder. He was awesome. Anyway, Whiskers found a place in our campaign that was non-combat. And he stayed in the thing, but I swear we revived that thing 3 times at least before I was just like, nope, no more, because it was coming out of the group budget to revive it. His logic was it was the group's pet, but he was the one wanting it there in combat, and I was like, nope, can't happen anymore. Sorry. I love Whiskers as much as the next guy, but he's not impactful enough in the battlefield to be worth it. But I think if you can find the balance between flavor and function with a pet, you know, is this pet straight up flavor or does it have a function? Like Goldbug? Goldbug I knew could die. He was tiny and had like 5 HP. That's why he was mostly a scout. He never did any combat. I never really used him for anything combat-wise unless I was desperate to just have one extra action on the board. Throw something out. Or I'd send him out to crawl over a wall or a ceiling to get over within range of, like, someone that I could cast via touch. You know? And that was it. Anyway. I really enjoy this map for the setting, the scenic nature of it. I think this would be a great little, like, a defense. Hey, you got to defend this base, kind of like a Helm's Deep type scenario, where you got to hold out in tower defense this, like, old base against all odds. I noticed we've got like 20 plus people watching on Steam right now. I just want to say hello to all the Steam viewers and let you know if you want to participate in the chat, you're more than welcome to. You're also welcome to lurk. But below the stream feed, little icon, you can click it. It says show chat, and then it'll open up the chat, and you can actually join in the conversation if you want to. Completely optional, just letting you know. Now we have 2 Bobs. Seisu got it. Oh, it does have that Barovia feel for sure. Barovia just feels like it's never like daytime, right? It just feels like a constant, just like the sky is always blotted out, you know? This is brilliant, though, for, like, a level of a dungeon. Dungeon level 4. Always gloomy. One of my favorite places in, like, any, like, fiction is the Savage Lands from, X-Men. I don't know if you're familiar with X-Men at all. But there's this, like, island that's isolated, or this place that's isolated from the whole world. Essentially, it's always covered by cloud cover. And so satellites can't penetrate it. They don't really know anything's there or what's there. And so, like, there's groups of, like, mutants living there in peace and kind of doing their own thing in the middle of nowhere. But there's actually, like, a flying pterodactyl pteranodon type man named Sauron. that lives in the Savage Lands. But the Savage Lands always intrigued me of the idea of like a secret faraway place, kind of like Skull Island, where you can't get to it by any normal means. Like, you have to be thrown there accidentally. The world has to will you there, you know? I do really feel like lighting is a very powerful tool in a map. Wakanda, another great, but Wakanda uses like technology to shield their existence, not necessarily like it's a natural occurring like storm that just keeps it cloud covered, or you know what I mean? But yes, a Wakanda type nation. Yeah, I like the idea of, you know, or the, yeah, like Gulliver's Travels, like there's some far away land that your players could get to almost by accident. They were traveling, maybe meant to go somewhere entirely different and ended up at this place. I kind of like the idea of planning a campaign that has a complete derail in the center of it that is actually the main campaign, and they don't realize it. Prowler, so the size of a map you can make is directly proportionate to your own PC specs. The limitations are driven by that. So the more powerful your machine, the larger a map you can make and or render in a single scene. Keep in mind, there's a few things to help you improve performance. And also, there's a few things, bits of advice that I could give with that. It sounds like you're trying to generate rooms or structures the whole size of the map. Is that the case? Like maybe you're trying to make a stone floor across the whole map, or are you just generating small maps, small rooms within that 50 by 50? So a few things. Zooming in, the further you're zoomed into the environment, the less your machine has to render. So the Dungeon Alchemist is a real-time 3D rendering engine. So it renders these environments in real time. It's not pre-rendered like a video game would be. So you are rendering this environment as it's being made and shown to you. The more you're zoomed out, the more environment has to be rendered and displayed to you, which decreases performance. So keep your builds, small while you're building them. Just kind of zoom into the area you're focused on. Only zoom out to get a general picture and then zoom back in. A couple other things. Settings. If you go into settings here, you have graphics quality. You have low, medium, and high. If you're struggling on high, drop it to medium. Maybe even drop it to low. Screen resolution. Again, if you're running a 4K resolution or a UHD resolution, maybe try 1080 while you're in Dungeon Alchemist only to help improve performance. Lastly, you can go up into the View tab here. I prefer running in full screen myself. If you're running in a windowed mode, that could decrease performance. And you can also disable natural animations. What that does is things that would be moving, like trees or water, lava, etc., will stop. Those effects will no longer happen. And it will give you a few more frames to help you build bigger maps. But I recommend building in low. Dungeon Alchemist always exports in a high quality, like a high quality render. So just make sure while you're building, if you're struggling with the map size, set it to low, turn off natural animation, zoom into the area you're focusing on. Do you have an example of the map you're trying to build right now, by chance, Prowler? Is it up on the workshop, or could you share it in Discord and I could take a look at it? One thing I noticed a lot of people do that they don't realize they're doing with new maps is, and especially when you're kind of newer to Dungeon Alchemist, you generate an environment, right? Let's say you generate a forest or even just a dark parchment environment. Actually, let's start with dark parchment, because a lot of people will default to that and build an entire environment around this instead of using the natural to their benefit. So like a lot of people will drag out an entire map like this, and then they're like, okay, I've got this. This is the whole map for them, is this whole floor, and then they'll change portions of it. So they're like, oh, I actually wanted it to be grass. So they're like, oh, okay, let's make this whole thing grass. And if you take this approach, it actually is going to be much slower because you have a whole building you're building inside instead of lots of little building. Does that make sense? Technically, it feels like it's outdoor, but it's technically one building. So the best approach is to have smaller buildings, right? Generate a smaller building, have another smaller building in tandem. These are the environment you're working within. Let me pull up a city here. What are your PC specs, Prowler? You mind sharing those with us too? The more I know about your situation, the more I can help. The Road That Bleeds. I'm assuming they kept all their game notes private, in their own personal notes. But it seems like it has an important factor in what's going on here. There's like a portal or something. I don't know, but you could tie all sorts of story to this environment. It's very cool though. I like it. So I'm assuming you drew the whole village wall as one big room and then drew the village rooms or individual rooms inside of that massive village, right? Prowler? And then you started using freestanding walls for the exterior. What you should use is For exterior building walls like that, you would use structural objects, and then you would build the interior buildings using a combination of AI buildings and or structural objects. I mean, extending a map is a big burden on your machine, so just do it little bits at a time. In fact, even my machine that is incredibly powerful, I have a 4070 Ti, 128 gigs of RAM, and I mean, after about 20 boxes on here, it starts lagging out for me too. It's gonna struggle when you start extending the map in any regard, because the AI has to generate and topographize this entire section of map all at once. Does that make sense? So I only do it in like 5-10 blocks at a time. Let it do it, save, do it again, do it again. I wouldn't do 100 block sections at a time. And even then, realistically, the smart way to expand your map is the little bits at a time. Don't start with a massive map and build into it. Start with a small map and expand out. Because then you're rendering less area constantly as you go. Does that make sense? So let's say you're building your environment like a city and you get to the edge, you're like, darn, I need more room. Then extend off the edge. Does that make sense? Instead of rendering the whole environment the entire time, only render it once the point is needed. That's like video game trick 101. You know, they only render like what's physically visible in front of you at any point in time. I don't know if that helps at all in your situation there, Prowler, but those are some tips I would use to try and extend a map. May I ask how big you're trying to make the map? Also, tell me a little bit about your situation. Are you playing in person with like a TV tabletop? Are you printing your maps? Are you playing online through a virtual tabletop? Depending on where you're playing and what you're doing, the size of a map can have a lot of effect on the outcome. For instance, like a virtual tabletop, they have size limits both to file size and actual resolution. So you can hit an upper limit at some point, a ceiling, so to speak, where you can't go past that. You also may run into limitations with your players. Say you're playing online through a virtual tabletop, your players may run into issues loading a map that is, say, 100 by 100 and 300 megabytes. I would recommend just having individual scenes that you traverse between, like loads. You know, you load into this new portion of the forest. Let's say it's a massive forest or a city. So for instance, a city, you could break it into quadrants. You know how I just showed you to extend the map? You could also use that to cut a map in half. So you could go File, Save, Quadrant 1, and then, or a master, and then break it into halves or quadrants by grabbing the edge and dragging it inward to shrink the map down. Does that make sense? So if you have an existing map that's just too big for your players, you can always make it smaller and then make that as a new scene. But like, let's say Foundry or Roll20, they have file size limits and they have resolution limits. Pair that with what your players' computers may be. Maybe they have a really powerful machine, but potato internet. Or maybe they have really good internet, but a horrible machine. Or maybe they have a horrible machine and potato internet or throttled internet. You got to think of production and gameplay from the lowest or the weakest link in the chain. So you want that experience to be fun for everyone on your table, right? If they can't load a map consistently because it's size, or can't load maps over a certain size effectively, or animated maps never work for them, you really need to start thinking how you can make the gameplay best for everyone. So big maps, honestly, I don't even recommend going above 50 by 50. I've seen people in our community make up to 100 by 100. You can do it. I have some maps that go to 60 by 60, 80 by 80. I don't go much bigger than that because most VTTs struggle with maps that are animated above that. Most VTTs and players struggle to play huge maps. It's just really not there yet for an online sphere. See, VCAT, that's exactly what I mean. And the DMs try to give you this new immersive experience. They work so hard to get you an animated map, but there's a few things they may need to consider. What's the DPI of that animated map? If it's 72 DPI, that map is 6 times smaller than if it's 300 DPI. So you're exponentially shrinking the file size and making it that much more visible for your players if you're willing to take a sacrifice in the DPI, or maybe the size of the map is smaller. So animated maps work, but they got to be within certain parameters of A, the guidelines of the VTT itself, and then your players' actual limitations of their equipment and internet. So city-size maps are great, but I usually recommend breaking them into like halves or quadrants or whatever, especially if they're going to be animated. It's just not there yet. A combination factor like internet services, and especially in like rural US. Rural US has taken advantage of the like limitations set, like the laws and guidelines set from like, the government. And so they offer the bare minimum for like ridiculously high prices, right? So with that in mind, you essentially get like some of your players could be in rural America or even a third world country and have really bad internet that costs them an arm and a leg. And so if that's the case, they may not be able to load these environments if they're massive or animated or 300 DPI. So you got to find that sweet spot, that Goldilocks zone for your table. The max size maps you can load. Get one of your players that helps you. Maybe you have an assistant DM or like a ledgerman that keeps track of information and stuff. Maybe they could hop on with you and do tests and see, or maybe you could have the player with the potato computer hop on and test and see if they can load that map. You know what I mean? Districts is smart, Ricky. That is also smart. JPEG, having the JPEG on standby as a backup scene just in case it won't load for your players. That is a pro DM move right there, Seisu. Also, VCAT, they can work for players that play online if they've got, good equipment. Like I've seen streamer groups that everyone in the group is like a gamer with a massive streaming rig and really good internet. It's possible to have an online session work within certain restrictions, but also you got to keep in mind that the VTTs have limitations. Like Roll20 recommends 20 megabyte files or less for their maps for animated. Like that's going to be a tiny, tiny map. Yeah, exactly. So you got to think, where are the players at relative to you? How far away are they? What's their internet situation? What's their economical situation? What's their computer like? Are they on like a tablet? Are they on a laptop, a hand-me-down computer? Are they on something that's brand new, top of the line? You always need to consider those situations. You as the DM, consider that for your players. Ping, yes, ping. I mean, just like in any online game, there's bound to be connection issues. Yeah, Prowler, I hope I'm not like tearing apart your game here. I'm really just trying to educate you on like how to make a better game experience for your players. There's so many different things that can cause the problem, the experience to be poor, right? And so think of it as a production from that standpoint. You're making the maps are beautiful, but then you got to load them in a VTT. The VTT doesn't load it great, or maybe the animation doesn't work great for one of your players. There's always some kind of weak link in the chain. So think of that from a production standpoint. I hope you all think of that realistically. When you're weaving a tale for your players, it's not just about writing the story and creating the map. It's how well they can immerse themselves because it actually runs well on their end, right? At the end of the day, the maps can be beautiful, but if the game doesn't play through your virtual tabletop of choice, what does it matter, right? And the thing, Prowler, and I point this out a lot, and I hope I don't offend anyone when I say this. DMs, we are cursed. GMs, DMs, we are cursed to be very detail-oriented. That's part of the reason we're DMs in the first place, is we are very detail-oriented. We love weaving stories and tales, building intricate environments for our players to interact with. But our players, on the opposite end of that coin, They're there to kick ass and take names in most cases. Very rarely do they interact with all of the setup and scenarios we've laid out for them, right? In fact, they'll probably spend 4 hours in front of a door, not going through it, debating how to pass the door instead of interacting and checking out all the environment that you built for them, right? Your players are the outlier, Seisu. I would say 99 out of 100 times your players won't notice all the minutia you put into a map. They may comment on how pretty the map is or how detailed it is. Yes, I have dealt with many players and many doors. So, but realistically, are they going to tear apart your map and be like, oh my gosh, you put this little detail here, this bone is in the weird place, it doesn't make any sense, or this structure doesn't, they're not going to tear apart your infrastructure or the layout. They may notice little details and ask questions about them, but realistically, they're not going to like get into the amount of detail that you put into a map. You could spend 100 hours building a map and they may spend like 30 minutes on it. You know what I mean? Or 4 hours. Yes. Oh, yes. and another thing too, if there's something you want to draw your players to, in production, they call it hanging a lantern, right? In games, they do it all the time by making it shiny. Right? So do things like that. If you want to draw attention to something and you put a lot of effort into it and your players need to notice it, maybe there was like a secret hatch or something they may not notice or whatever. Put something shiny on it so it draws more attention to it. Or a light by it that's a different color. So your players know that maybe they should investigate this. Honestly, Deathlock, when I play with my players with a map, in the environment, anything they see in that environment in a DA map is something they can interact with and or pick up. So if I'm making this map, I think all of these suits are armor, all of these bones, all of these things are things that are lootable. You know what I mean? If they look at a desk in a room, or they're looking at these, cool, like, burial chambers, they're like, hey, I want to open and see if there's some loot inside. I'll let them do that. But they could have traps. They could have something that could spring to life inside. I'm totally fine with them interacting. If there's a desk and or a table and there's stuff on the table, yes, that's all something they can investigate and potentially loot. That's part of my curse. My problem is I put all those things there thinking, hey, they can interact with it and loot it. I also have notes of what might be in the drawers. I spend way too much time crafting scenarios that never happen. So what I started doing to save myself time and sanity is I would have, maybe something like this, and I know that there's a drawer and there's loot for it, but I don't say what's in it. I have a loot table that rolls for it. And then whatever's on top of it that they can see in the open is something that I say they can interact with or loot. I'm assuming the plaque was too worn for them to read after their investigation, or you mean it actually has a plaque on it that they just couldn't read because it was too worn? Like this has a plaque on it? I didn't even know. How you doing, Highland Lass? Like a little note on the map for what's what? Pins? Smart. So what I have in the game that I used to run was a world map that I made. And the world map was kind of like grayed and blacked out. They didn't know the area. They kind of knew some areas based on tales or, maybe someone had told them of a place far off. They knew it was out there, but they'd never been there, right? So they start from where they start on the map, which is like a tavern, and they explore out from it, just like in a video game. As you explore, the fog of war reveals and different areas are explored. So as they explored the forest and navigated it, they know the road there, and now they know to the next town. And it's kind of like expands the map, and each area, mini map, or part of that regional map that has like a little town or a point of interest, had like a pin or a journal note on it that when you click on it, if they've been there, it would show that area's map and notes for it. Essentially, it was an ever-expanding regional map that they could explore and go to different areas and get different quest lines and different things like that. How's your game going? I mean, even like you could just have the plaque say an inscription of who was buried there, just like a gravestone, you know? You could have like a poem or something, just kind of like any information. It also could just tell you, like, I don't know, when I think of that, like when I think of burial stuff, like in a plaque on it, it probably is like information about the person buried there. It could also have a riddle or other information, because, you know, like if you're going to hide something, hiding it in like a crypt or a funeral plot, or, you know, at a cemetery, it seems like a place that would last a long time. You know, because those stay for years, hundreds of years. You know, cemeteries stay in cities for centuries. So it'd be a great place to hide something later and leave clues about something later. Sounds like they're having a good session. Very cool. I'm sure you always have something fun planned for them. I really love this. This is a great crypt. Really, it's nonsensical. Like, there really is no, like, sense to the layout. It almost just looks like they maybe followed the path of least resistance and carved stuff out. There's tunnels leading to nowhere, like, looping around. This is just love. This is like Diablo to me. I love it. I do like the idea of a crypt not having like any sort of planning, and they just kind of expand it as they need. Oh, we have 500 bodies, so we need room for that many more. Or, you know, like they just kind of expand it as the need arises. Honestly, like that's a great example of what we were talking about earlier, how you could plan and put all the details in a map. Again, we're cursed to be detail-oriented when our players aren't so much. There may be a player or two in your group that will fixate on all the little details, but not nearly as much as you do as a DM. You know what I mean? Sometimes going with the flow is the way to go. Alrighty, I'm noticing it is now 2 p.m., which means it is time to wrap up the damn stream. We showed off a lot of cool assets and maps today, covered a lot of cool tips, tricks, techniques, and discussed ways to better immerse your players into your games and better production level. You know, thinking the end goal of your games, not just the map itself, but how it presents itself to your players in your virtual tabletop or as a printout or TV tabletop. thinking of the end game and the production level is always important. So remember that as you are making maps. You know, will this play on all of my players' machines? Will it run in my VTT right? Etc. So keep that in mind as you are making maps and immersing your players weaving them into your world, that you want to make sure that it actually runs and plays. So yes, beautiful detailed maps are great, but at the end of the day, if the map is too big or too high of a DPI export or too many animated assets, it may not run in your virtual tabletop or play space of choice. Thank you everyone for participating in the DAM stream today. Again, my name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is an AI-powered map-making utility available on Steam. And when we say AI-powered, we don't mean generative AI, scrape your data, steal your art AI. We're not like that. We took an ethical, above-board approach to our AI. In fact, we consider our AI last gen. It's procedural AI instead of generative. Our AI is trained in-house with our own data sets, with our own assets, with our own maps. We never scrape maps or data from the internet to train our AI, and all of our assets are made in-house by a talented team of artists. That means none of your art or maps or assets on the workshop are ever used in our training of our AI or in the building of Dungeon Alchemist. And remember, you do not have to be reliant on AI to build maps in Dungeon Alchemist. You can always roll up your sleeves and build maps 100% by hand, just like any other map maker on the market. So at the end of the day, you have both options. You can generate environments and buildings using the AI, or you can roll up your sleeves and do it all by hand, or you can mix and match, saving yourself time. I appreciate you all participating in the DAM stream. We host these every other Saturday. The DAM stream is a showcase of community maps and assets. It's a live AMA format stream where you can share feedback and get guidance on your builds, live support, etc. Every other Saturday, so next Saturday, we host a stream called the DAM Challenge. I don't know if you've seen the marquee next to me here, that way. That marquee says the current DAM Challenge, which is attraction. You use that as a theme, make a map of any shape or size, and submit that in our Discord to the DAM Challenge channel. The Discord has a channel dedicated to this challenge where users share their entries. The rules for the competition are pinned at the top of the channel, so you can just check the pins, see the rules. But essentially, you make a map of any shape or size using attraction as inspiration. Submit that map. If your map is the winner, you win a $10 Hero Forge gift card, and your map is the first map featured on that stream. Hey, we just had a raid pop in. Wow, thank you so much for the raid and for the follows. Welcome, raiders. I didn't even see the name of the raid because all the follows happened so quick. Let me look at my notifications here. Rhinos Occultos RPG, thank you for the follow. Welcome, welcome. We've got Kaitis, Faye, Eri, or Erie, I should say. Arquillian, Whiskey, Prowler, thank you so much for those follows. Much appreciated for the raid and the follow love. I appreciate you. Ja from Brazil. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the DAM fam, as we like to call it, or sometimes I call it the DAM Nation. I hate to say this, we were actually literally just in our wrap up as you raided. I feel so bad. Oh no. Thank you. Yeah, this is a beautiful map made entirely in Dungeon Alchemist, which is the company I'm representing on stream. Dungeon Alchemist is our tool to make maps in immersive settings for your tabletop gaming, such as D&D or Pathfinder. You just finished your session. How did it go? Did anybody die? TPK? Show one more map for the Raiders. You know what map I'll show? We'll show a city map. Something crazy, right? It'll take a minute to download this stuff, but we'll check it out. We'll do one more map for the Raiders. So, Ooh, nice, nice. Everyone's alive for now, not for long. You use Dungeon Alchemist? Well, that's awesome. That's good to hear. In fact, I'm already following your stream, so I must have dropped by at some point and supported your channel. At some point, I've likely seen your Dungeon Alchemist maps drop by and said something along the lines of, nice map. Dungeon Alchemist is less than 10 people, counting myself. We have 4 developers now, and then, 5 artists and myself. Hey, Dungeon Master Chef. How you doing? So, Fairy, is your name just Fairy? Or is it Fae-Eerie? I didn't know if you're going on the play in words there and trying to get like all in one. Check this map out though. This was made entirely in Dungeon Alchemist by one of our community members named Sailor Yugoth. Shared on the workshop. And it is an amazing example. Hey, happy birthday, Dungeon Master Chef. All right, you told me that last time we spoke. Happy birthday! From one map maker to the other. May your parties be TPK'd. So this map was an entry into a contest we had on the stream a couple weeks. Well, we have an ongoing map making contest. There was one labeled Siege was the theme, and this was the entry for that. And as you can see, it's like a walled, multi-tiered city with like villages, intricate, security systems, defenses, and a massive castle with a waterfall. It is essentially Howl's Moving Castle, yeah, basically. The person who made this map has actually made several maps with like a wandering castle type like siege engine or thing on it, and they say they take a lot of inspiration from Howl's Moving Castle, for sure. How you doing, Nikki? I saw your message. I've just been too busy to respond, but I do have some information for you. How are you, by the way? What you been up to? Sorry, I've been incommunicado. I've been just busy and kind of waiting for the go-ahead to share more information. But yeah, this was an entry in the Siege Dam Challenge, I think about a month ago, and it just blew my mind. Worms Crossing? It's weird, I'm seeing YouTube chat, but it's not showing in the feed. Huh. I'm gonna refresh it. Hopefully that fixes it. The YouTube chat feed has a problem. I don't know what it is. Again, Raiders, thank you so much for coming in, for raiding, for supporting our community, for being Dungeon Alchemist fans, and for supporting us. I will definitely try and catch your stream in the future. I know I'm following you already, so I definitely have dropped in before and said hello. Appreciate you supporting our community, and we would love to support you more in the future as well. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for pushing us up there. We're actually getting pretty close to 2,400 supporters here on TikTok. We are at 2,389. So only 11 away from that big 2,400. I'm hoping that we can hit 2,400 before the reveal streams. For those that aren't aware, we actually, our next update, Magic, is very close. Very, very close. I'd say we're within a month, maybe a month and a half tops before it launches. And in that same, vein of transparency, we're doing 2 reveal streams prior to the launch, so you can check it out, see all the new content, get familiar with it, kind of get super hyped, wet your whistle a little bit as you wait for the launch, the update. on the 1st and the 8th. Mark your calendars. 12 p.m. Pacific till 2 p.m. Pacific. That's 3 p.m. Eastern. I think that's 8 GMT and 9 p.m. CET, I think, across the board there. Kind of derive your time zone off of that information if you can. But there'll be 2 hours of teasers, lots of leaks, getting to see the new AI for the new round rooms and random shaped rooms, moving rooms up and down, rotating them. Hey, Run Amok, how you doing? Glad you made it. Yeah, in Discord we have a couple of events. Make sure you RSVP to them. Mark your calendars. If you RSVP to the event, it'll remind you automatically via Discord. The links for all the various platforms will be streaming. We'll be there. We'll be on Twitch. We'll be on Twitter. We'll be on Facebook. We'll be on YouTube, Kick, etc. We're going to be everywhere. So thank you so much for all the support today, everyone. Make sure you hop in our Discord, get on those events, RSVP, mark your calendar so you do not miss out on the reveal of the Magic update, which I'm telling you right now is going to be the biggest update to Dungeon Alchemist to date. It's going to completely change the way you make maps and share in environments with your players. And by that I mean you're going to be able to make entire cities like this with just the AI buildings, you know, at different angles, roads intersecting perpendicularly and parallel to each other, all sorts of stuff. And being able to make roads, etc., at those angles, rounded, curved, winding roads. We'll be able to do that using the AI when the new update launches. I will teach you all how to do that, so make sure you check it out on the stream. Also, tons of cool content, including new tokens, will be free in the update. 600 plus new objects, tons of new features, too many to name. Anyway, I would not delay sessions, Prowler, because honestly, your players will lose interest the more you delay. You want to keep them interested in your campaign constantly so you don't get players that are like, oh, I'm too busy this week. If you put off for a month, 2 months, 3 months, you're going to have an issue getting all of them back to the table, potentially. You know, obviously there's groups where they'll be like, we're so excited to get back after a break, but not all of them. So what you want to do, keep your sessions going and work around what you have and make what you can within the environments and the tools available within DA to work with, you know, what you have to work with right now, and make it fluid within your campaign dynamics. I know that it's like everyone's just kind of sitting on their hands waiting for this update, but I don't know. If I were a player and my DM was just putting a campaign on hold because of an update to a program, I would be a little bummed out. I'm being honest with you. Look at it from the player perspective. Anyway, we'll all talk later. You guys and gals have a wonderful week. Again, my name is Mac, the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. We'll see you next time I give a damn. Mac out. Yes, Run Amok, you can. If you go to the workshop browser and go to browse assets, click this little token icon right there, right? And you can search NPCs, monsters, characters. These have all been shared on the workshop by community members. Some are colored, some are not, some are animated, some are not. Some are just the flat gray like a traditional token, like a mini. And if they're a flat gray token like these, you can always add color to them. Really quickly, just going to answer this question, we'll wrap up the stream. So I'm downloading a flat gray token. This would have been an STL file when it was inserted into Dungeon Alchemist. By the way, any of you can import custom 3D models to Dungeon Alchemist. So I'm going to place this token. Notice there's the color thing there. I can swap between the colors. So you could just quickly set it as a color so it pops out, or give it a status by, oh, this poison. Oh, this guy is on fire. You know what I mean? Hey, see you later, everyone. Thank you for being here. Again, I appreciate you all being here, whether you're actively chatting or lurking, participating and helping and, you know, providing support, sharing maps, etc., or assets on the workshop. Each one of you are absolute rock stars that contribute to our community. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We'll see you next time I give a damn. Back out. Bye. Bye-bye.
You stand before the long dark road to the fabled realm of Goyak Ta, and before
What do we see?
I don't know. A goblin.
I kill him!
But before she does, I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to know the goblin's name.
Hi, my name is Woblin.
Where do you live there, Woblin?
I don't think that's relevant.
Well, but I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to seek the goblin's abode.
Clever, find family, kill entire bloodline. I like it.
Seriously, we're doing this?
Okay, well, won't be needing that anymore, will I?
Ever get caught by your players with your pants down? Dungeon Alchemist lets you create wonderful maps for any encounter in seconds.
Oh, Woblin, that's a very impressive cheese collection you've got there.
Yeah, it is quite impressive, yes. But you know what's more impressive? This map I have to the
Fabled realm of Goyak Ta. Please take it and leave. Close the door behind you.
Mr. Woblin, I cannot help but notice that you have a secret tunnel underneath your cabinet. Care to explain?
Download Dungeon Alchemist, the AI-powered map maker, on Steam today.
You